Welcome to the Teachers Need Teachers podcast, the podcast for teachers who don't want to just survive teaching, but actually thrive. I'm your host, Kim Laprie. If you're a longtime listener, you probably noticed that it's been a while. It's been about a year and a half since my last episode, and I know that gap didn't go unnoticed. During that time, I had a lot of people reach out, and I'm really, really grateful. It was about the podcast, about the YouTube channel. And by the way, yes, it was always the same content for both. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. Some people thanked me and told me how helpful the episodes were, and some asked if I was going to start posting again. A few even asked about being guests, which I'll be honest, not the biggest fan of that format, but it doesn't mean that I'm not possibly open to it in the future. Right now, I sort of have an idea of how I want the podcast to go in a way that has the least amount of friction for me, but I'm going to go more into that. But the most common question, though, really was when? When are you coming back? And for a long time, I really didn't have an answer. So let me kind of go into this. And I know this isn't usually the type of episode that people gravitate towards when they're looking for help for information on teaching, but maybe you were in a similar situation to me and you can relate. And this is how I dealt with it. So let's start with, first of all, why I stepped away. So I went back and forth about restarting the podcast more times than I can count. And every time I considered coming back, the same few things consistently stopped me. First, I didn't feel like I had anything new to add, which might seem silly, but I don't know. I feel like I had already said everything in all of my other episodes. So, also, my teaching experience doesn't always look like what we hear about the most online. I don't have constant horror stories or daily chaos. And I was worried that sharing my feelings might feel invalidating to others. I didn't want to sound like I was minimizing anyone else's experience or worse, gaslighting people into thinking they were doing something wrong because their classroom felt harder than mine. Another reason I stepped away was that I was creating content and the way that I was doing it, it just wasn't sustainable. I have very high standards for what I put out into the world, and each episode literally took hours. So it would be multiple takes, especially because I would be looking into the camera, which is different from now, but I would like be looking to the camera and having to memorize line by line. And then I would have to like edit it and put in like visuals and images. And at some point, I even paid someone to help with the video because I felt like that level of professionalism in a video was what people expected on YouTube. Just thinking about putting that level of time, money, and energy back into it again just created this visceral reaction in my body. And I would kind of panic when I was thinking about it. And that was my signal that something wasn't right. So, creating content, it also tapped into my own insecurities, to be honest. Like how I looked, whether my hair and makeup were right, the lighting, the thumbnails. I mean, if you've ever created anything publicly, especially on like social media or YouTube, casually or not, you understand how much mental energy that takes. And unless your image is, showing like your true raw self all the time, a lot of us are putting stuff out there in a way where we want to look our best. We want to look at what we're putting out and feel good about what we see. That takes a lot of energy. And it takes a lot of vulnerability too. And that was just something for the past year and a half that I just didn't have anymore. I just couldn't do it. And finally, I only have so much energy. And saying yes to the podcast meant saying no to time with myself and my family. So if you've ever been in a situation like this, maybe you're also a teacher who puts stuff on social media, then you understand. So here's why I'm actually back now. I'm in a different place. Like I'm generally in a really good place. And over the past year and a half, I've been working on myself, which I think is important for everyone. both mentally and physically. I was diagnosed with ADHD, which completely blindsided me at first, but then everything made sense. Maybe someday I'll talk about that, especially for those of you who are also neurodivergent teachers. It can affect in so many ways how we do our jobs and how hard it can be. But, apparently I coped for the longest time until I didn't, which is also one of the reasons why I went to get diagnosed to see what was up. You might also notice some differences in my cadence and the way that I talk. I was in a car accident and I had a concussion. It has affected my memory in some ways. It's affected the flow in terms of how I speak. That coupled with the ADHD, which I am managing so much better now, but it is harder for me to collect my thoughts. I find myself being having to pause a lot and be really purposeful. And past me would spend so much time trying to edit every single and pause because it's probably annoying for you as the listener to hear every single pause. And I'll probably do some light editing on this so that when I'm pausing to think, you're not sitting there feeling awkward. One of the biggest shifts for me has been also letting go of perfectionism and the constant worry about what other people think. There's this quote from Mel Robbins that really stuck with me. It's none of my business what other people think about me. And it's a mantra that I still have to remind myself about because it does creep in the insecurities, but also I know that what I'm putting out is helpful for teachers. And it's whether you agree with my teaching philosophies or life philosophies, I'm just hoping that as long as I can help a handful of people, then, it's okay if some people think that I look weird or that I sound weird or that what I'm saying doesn't apply to them. So that was a really big driver for me is that I feel good. I feel like I have the energy to give. After enough people asking me if I'm going to come back, I was like, you know what? Let's try this. Let's see how this goes. And so I have plans. So what's the same and what's different? So by and large, I am the same teacher I was a year and a half ago. I have the same teaching and grading philosophy. I'm still using my own version of the modern classroom project model that I raved about back then. And I still have really found that it's helped me now, especially with keeping teaching sustainable. I'm still deeply reflective, and this has always been like part of myself and how I teach. I'm borderline critical though, but always reflecting on what I'm doing in the classroom and whether it's effective. That's been the same. What has changed is my willingness to be honest about how I feel. And that's been actually something that I've struggled through most of my life. I've always been a people pleaser. I've always been afraid of conflict. And through, again, self reflection, therapy, which I definitely suggest if you can get some of that, I realized that I can actually speak how I feel. And if people don't agree, whether it's online or to my face, it's okay. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. They don't think that I'm stupid. And maybe they do, but it's, again, it's okay. That's definitely changed. I've taught for 24 years now and I've seen a lot. I've experienced a lot and I've spent a long time observing, reflecting, and trying to make sense of what works, what doesn't, and why. So I felt like, okay, maybe before I didn't have anything to add, and at this point in my life, maybe I'll be repeating some of the same stuff, but just from a wiser point of view or just with more information. So hopefully, what I plan to release in future episodes will continue to be helpful. So I want to intentionally weave something else into future episodes, and it's the fact that I still enjoy teaching and that I've found ways to make it sustainable. And there are a lot of teachers who are drowning right now. Many are leaving the profession. And I get it. Like when I read and watch about the things that they have to deal with, and maybe that's you, and that's one of the reasons why you've sought out this podcast, it pains me that these teachers have put so much of themselves, the time and the money and the energy into becoming a teacher. And this is the reality that they have to face on a daily basis. I want you to know that it isn't like that everywhere. Even in this intense moment in this country, in this time, I mean, I'm in the US and it's 2025. You know what I mean when I say how crazy it is in this country. There are ways to teach that don't require constant self sacrifice. And I think in order to survive this time and how education is changing, those of us who are veterans, if we want there to continue to be public school and if we want there to more people going into teaching, we're going to have to lend a helping hand and offer some hope and some guidance. And so that's what I'm here for. But I just wanted to give you all an update for those of you who have been following me and who maybe were just wondering what's going on. I need more. I had some people tell me specifically there's more that I need to know, that I want to know. I hope this episode wasn't too long. I know it's just a catch-up episode. I promise that everything after this is going to be more geared towards actual teaching. So thank you again, and I really appreciate it. Oh yeah, if you have questions, you can email me, kim@teachersneedteachers.com. You can find me on Instagram, although my profile is private. So you'll have to message me. I'll see the message and then I'll let you follow me. If you want to reach out through me through social media, that's fine. If you find me on TikTok, I don't know. My TikToks are about K-pop and silly stuff. So if you find me, you can follow me there, but it's not going to be very useful. I'm not really into promoting myself. There's not a whole lot of helpful stuff that you're going to find on social media. It's just going to be personal stuff. So if you do want to reach out to me, the easiest way is just email me. Thank you again for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.